Shabbat Shalom. The day that Palmetto High School invoked a uniform policy was a day of joy and gladness for me. A mother of 3 teenage girls at the time, middle school and high schoolers, how much easier would that be when they had to put on a uniform? Larry, you're with me, aren't you? Thank you. But by the time my kids were in high school, I didn't have to get up with them. I had made their lunches the night before, or they had made their lunches. And I would appreciate the uniforms and the fact that there wouldn't be doors slamming in the morning, drawers opening and closing, and that kind of tumult and trauma that comes when teenage girls get ready for school. Because now the choice was clear: white, navy, light blue, or gray polo shirt. And on Fridays, the choice was widened to include a spirit shirt. If you haven't had children in school in a while, or if you are not an educator, you may not know what a spirit shirt is. A spirit shirt is a t-shirt that advertises some club or team or school activity. Now, one of my children in the school student council, their spirit shirt I loved. It was a light blue chambray blue button-down, not even a t-shirt. And pants, well, pants or shorts had to be in a solid color. And get this, no holes were allowed. No fashionable tears or rips or colors or bleaches. And of course, you know the shorts had to be long enough, which is past your middle finger if your arm is down at your side. None of this seems too difficult, does it? It's not really complicated. And I was thrilled, and my kids knew well enough not to ask me to sign a uniform waiver. See, I didn't care if a school uniform limited one's sense of self-expression. You could change your clothes at 2:30. I thought the school uniform is a great idea. It's a safety issue. It made it easier to see who belongs on campus, who's a student, and who may be hanging around, who doesn't belong on campus. And it's a modesty issue. Now, I don't care what my kids wear to the beach, but school is different. And even with all these rules in place, occasionally, I might have been known to say, "Is that what you wore to school today?" Or even today, in post-high school times in my house, on very rare but not unheard of occasions, one might hear me say, "Is that what you're wearing?" Am I giving a gentle rebuke? Yes, and we are taught to rebuke gently, kindly. After all, if I wasn't being gentle, I might have said, "You're wearing that?" But I don't, because I'm gentle. Am I being judgmental when I look at those outfits? Yes. And it's true, most of us don't like to be judged. We don't like to be evaluated, looked at, checked on, our clothing, our behavior, what we say. But what if we were judged because we are loved? In this week's Torah portion, Moses is commanded to make holy garments for his brother Aaron, the high priest. V'asita v'gdei kodesh la'aharon achicha lechavod ultiferet. Make sacred vestments for your brother Aaron, for dignity and adornment. There are 8 garments in all that the high priest had to wear, 4 of them pure white linen, 4 of them with colors and with gold thread. Invested with these holy garments, the high priest was invested as the representative of the Jewish people before God. I guess you really had to check what you were wearing if you were standing before God. And on his shoulders, the high priest wore 2 stones. the names of 6 tribes engraved on one stone, the names of 6 tribes engraved on the other stone. He wore next to his heart a breastplate, like today we see on the Sefer Torah, but this one had 12 precious stones symbolizing the 12 tribes, and they were all lined up in a rectangle. And each tribe was associated with a color based on their attributes or actions. And this is not exactly, it's specific in the Torah, but there are discussions about what it really means, especially when you translate the names of the stones. But, for example, the sages taught, the tribe of Reuben had a ruby stone, because Reuben sinned by transposing the beds of his mother Leah and his father's concubine Bilhah. The ruby's red color represents the shame Reuben felt when admitting his misdeed. Levi, carbuncle. The tribe of Levi devoted themselves to transmitting the teachings of God to their brethren. And so therefore this stone is brilliant. Its sparkle symbolizes the Torah's spiritual radiance. 12 stones, 12 beautiful colors. Inside the breastplate were placed the Urim and Tumim, mystical kinds of oracles. Yes, oracles. And when the high priest would be asked a question, he would consult the Urim and Tumim, which were considered a way of communicating with God. Some metaphysical, electric, sort of ET phone home feeling kind of way of communicating with God. And the answer appeared on the stones of the breastplate. They lit up the letters according to the stones and gave the answer. What was this breastplate called in Hebrew? Choshen Mishpat, the breastplate of judgment, because a judgment would come from the colors of the lights. Now just think for a moment how Aaron held the weight of the children of Israel on his shoulders with those stones and by his heart with the Choshen Mishpat. The Talmud teaches that each garment reminds the high priest of the people's sins. So even though he was holding them close, he was holding close their misdeeds. Each item atones for another sin. For example, the tunic atones for murder. The pants, adultery. The turban, haughtiness. Through his service in the sanctuary, Aaron made atonement, wearing these garments. You might think that these garments should be plain because they were reminding him of the sin of the people. But the opposite is true. They were made especially beautiful. The people were around, but also symbolically a part of Aaron. They were beautiful, these garments, because God judges people with love. And the high priest was the closest person to God, serving in the most holy location to God, all to make the people better people. Let's think for a moment of some of our greatest celebrations. We have Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, but what's the other name for Rosh Hashanah? Yom Hadin, the Day of Judgment, and we celebrate that. We celebrate Pesach, the holiday of redemption and freedom, and only 6 weeks later, we are free to receive the responsibility and the upcoming judgment, which comes from having responsibility when we receive the Torah at Shavuot. Both holidays thereby celebrating our increased responsibility. Who does that? Who rejoices when they have more responsibility? Yay! That's why you're here. And when does a Jewish person or young person have one of the biggest celebrations? When they are 13 years old and become bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah. For bar and bat mitzvah celebrate not ending of religious learning, as all of you here know, but rather we celebrate a young person's taking on more responsibility. Go, Alan, go. We are thrilled with the greater responsibility. because we are thrilled with the prospect of their life becoming more meaningful. God cares about our actions, and we have these mitzvot, these responsibilities to do again and again and again to prove ourselves. We do not celebrate living in a vacuum of indulgence. We celebrate significance. What is significant? Relationships, caring for each other, love. Yesterday, there was a popular secular, almost secular holiday. And in Hebrew, that day is called Yom Shel Ahava, Day of Love. Now, take it for the Israelis because they're able to change anything that looks like fun and grab it and make it something special. But it's also a weird thing, considering all the things I said about responsibility. How can a holiday of love, where you celebrate this incredible sudden attraction, be adopted into Jewish life? So here's a joke. There are two couples sitting at different tables in a restaurant, and I'm going to translate it from the Hebrew. I hope it doesn't lose so much in the translation. One couple are madly in love. They're looking into each other's eyes. They're declaring their love. They are drinking their wine. They are in full celebration. The other couple, let's just say it's a regular night out for them. And they also are in deep discussion, but maybe with a higher pitch, a little bit of anger, and they're having a fight at the table. Well, the loving couple looks at them and says to them, "Don't you know that this is the day of love?" And they answer, "We're not observant." Not observant, because it's a different kind of love. The high priest, we don't believe in that love at that first sight. We believe in a kind of love that appreciates goodness, that strives for a selflessness of purpose. Just think of Tevye and "Do you love me?" after 25 years. That's the kind of way that we celebrate love. It's significant. It may not be magnetic all the time, but it is significant. The high priest takes on the Jewish people because they matter to God. And in that way, we matter to God. In that way, all people matter to God. The holy garments, the Choshen Mishpat, the breastplate of judgment, were a physical way for the ancient Israelites to see people interacting with God and to see what God cared about. How does God care about what I am doing? Ecclesiastes said, "At all times, your garments should be white." A metaphorical extension meaning our characters should be clean and pure. Is that what you're wearing? Asks God. A life of meaning and responsibility, a pure and clean character. Ken Yeh Ratzon. May this be God's will for us. Amen.